Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. For the first time since October 2024, my face gets to grace your computer screens, cell phones, tablets. It's me, Chris Branson, from the Cheap Seats Wrestling Podcast. I know, like I said, it's been since October that I've seen y'all. And I have missed doing this. Honestly, it is one of my actual joys. It's also the fact that in real life, off the computer screen, brother's got to make some money because streaming doesn't necessarily pay the bills. Maybe one day it will, but it it is so good to be back on your computer screens, giving my opinions, talking about wrestling from a point of view that's a little different. You know, I well known am a combat veteran, 2 tours of Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom. So I kind of have a little bit more twisted, not twisted bad, but twisted perspective, especially listening to those who are talking about the business and kind of going, "Oh, okay. Now I see it from their eye set." And honestly, let me tell you, this road to WrestleMania, everybody's like, "Oh, it's underwhelming." It's been subtle. They're wanting you. They're dropping Easter eggs, and I mean the Heyman stuff, Cena, Rollins. You know, the beauty of the Triple H area has been dropping Easter eggs, so that they're hoping that you caught it. So when it happens, you're going, aha. That's what wrestling used to be. The beauty of wrestling being, aha, it all makes sense now. Versus, let's throw this on the wall and let's see if it sticks. You know, as I was mentioning before, this is the first time since October 2024 then I've been able to really talk to you, the wrestling fans, the wrestling universe. Um, I've been able to catch up here and there between WWE, AEW, TNA, GCW, and we're going to talk about Bloodsport a little bit today. I'm going to add some, Bloodsport 13 and how I thought about that show. It was a great show last night. Stayed up to watch it. Actually, even caught some of the WC Super Show. Love that Danhausen, by the way. Congratulations on the scramble win. Um, but you know, it's an amazing opportunity to get to do this stuff. So, without further ado, I'm gonna move kind of into my next little bit of, let's see here. Sometimes operating your computer while doing this kind of gets funny at times. Let's see here. Da 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 da. I don't need the clips. Just give me back to the texts. Or, yeah, okay. I guess it's not going to let me do it. I had this whole thing already set up and everything else and what I was going to do, and now I go and screw it up. Give me 1 second. You know what sucks is sometimes your platform it kind of disappears. Da, 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 do, 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 do. Na, na, na. Oh boy, where'd my text go? So anyhow, I had all my crawlers and everything and whatnot set up. So let's just shoot from the hip here. One of the first topics today that we're going to talk about is AEW. Why do I want to talk about AEW? Well, the title of this part of the segment was going to be AEW: the good, the bad, the improvement. And in all honesty, I do like what has been coming from the AEW product lately. Um, a lot of storylines, a lot of conflicts between wrestlers on your AEW programming. It's starting to make a lot more sense. Your women's division is starting to stand out on their own, away from NXT, TNA, uh, other wrestling companies. And that's what you want. You want your standouts to shine, but you also want to plug in what you think is going to be the star of tomorrow. And it's a beautiful thing when you do it right. Okay? Such a beautiful thing. And I I tend to believe that as Tony Khan is getting the opportunity to kind of tweak and play with his product, he is starting to listen to the fan base. And what I mean by listening to the fan base is some suggestions that, hey, lean on your veterans. In the past, it didn't feel that way. The crowds would kind of go, okay, we went from this storyline back, and now we're in this storyline. And sometimes the run to those things is going to confuse people. And you don't want your crowd too confused. You know, let's go back to the Vince McMahon era when Vince was running booking, and you'd hear these stories. Oh, hey, stuff got torn up 5 minutes after it was written. And then you have people scrambling and worrying, oh, what are we doing tonight? And you saw the houses getting smaller and smaller as the booking didn't make sense. Well, that's what I think happened to AEW. The fact that it was this new shiny toy that was forcing everybody else to do better business, the shine started coming off. And sometimes you kind of gotta go and grab the polish and just rub the polish in right there on the product to make it stand out to the rest of what's out there, so that when the consumer kind of goes, okay, hey, you know what? I want to watch you. I want to invest my time and my money in your pay-per-views, PLEs, whatever you want to call it. And oh, by the way, I got like the Pat McAfee show over here from WWE World, just kind of trying to pay attention, keep an eye on that, as well as doing this. They had just had Stone Cold Steve Austin on, talking about this weekend WrestleMania, the Hall of Fame, the WrestleMania 13 match that's coming up to be inducted as the first immortal moment in Hall of Fame history. Back to AEW though. Dynasty. I remember World's End a year before World's End. Oh my God, worst pay per view I'd ever seen. And that's speaking from somebody who's watched WCW, ECW, WWE back in the day /F. That one stunk. Now, I agree with a lot of fans that, hey, ending a pay per view, unless it's like a WrestleMania style or WrestleMania era pay per view, it kind of needs to stick to a smaller card, and eventually that will map itself out on AEW pay per views. I don't want a whole lot of okay, let's put this feud in there, put this feud in there. That's why you book your feuds out. Your 4 week, your 8 week, your 12 week, your 6 months kind of feuds. And does Mercedes Monet versus Tony Storm necessarily have to be on Double or Nothing? Well, it's going to be, but for booking's sake, if you already have these 5 storylines that really catch the attention of the AEW and pro wrestling audience, can another one be pushed back to or booked to kind of go back to the next pay per view that follows? Which I think is Forbidden Door. No, not June. July is All In. I think August is Forbidden Door this year. Forget what June was. I think they're doing Grand Slam in Mexico in June. Anyhow, can you book something a little further out so where the first match, the first kind of time they really touch graps is the following paper? Yeah, sure. But you gotta have some kind of physicality or build up in between. Like look at Steve Austin, The Undertaker, Mick Foley, Triple H, The Rock back in the Attitude Era. They'd have in between matches right before they had the matches facing each other at the PLEs. And that's something that I don't think people get sometimes is, hey, you can build up. You can make things a little bit more sensical. So when that crescendo, that climax is ready and supposed to be hitting, you have this investment. Jim Ross is famous for saying, if you don't have investment in something, it ain't gonna make sense to the fans. That's the worst Jim Ross impersonation I'll ever make. God bless Jim Ross for what he has done for the game and continues to do for the game. In whatever role he has been doing for AEW here lately, kind of being more involved in the main events, which that should be what JR is involved in, is the main events, calling the main events. I don't think people get that JR himself is so integral to how the business, how the business itself is. And that's a guy that if Tony Khan is literally sitting there kind of going, you know what, I need to pick somebody's ear, that's the man I'm picking the ear of. I'm making a conscious effort to talk to him. Dustin Rhodes, another good guy. I mean, let's put it this way: his family, Cody's theme. There's more than one royal family in professional wrestling. Dustin sat under the learning tree of his father. He's valuable. Christopher Daniels. Think Christopher Daniels could, be of some creative mind. You have talent there that, ego aside, can fill in the spaces, make the dots make sense, and make professional wrestling itself like a storybook. Okay, here's this chapter. Here's this chapter. And that's what they're doing. The house is even. I think it's disingenuous of an AEW fan that goes to a pay per view but can't show up for a TV tape. You're spending your 50, 75, 100, 250, 600, 500, whatever you spend to show up to one of the pay-per-views and max out the pay-per-view. But then you don't waste your time to go see and fill in the seats for a TV show. Now, I do think that the venues they're picking and the venues that a lot of times you wouldn't expect to be a professional wrestling venue, like theaters, music halls. Like this last Wednesday, they were at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway Park. And if you look at the audience and you were looking at all three sides, whether you were dealing with the entrance being, where it was, or how Moxley and the Death Riders came in, it was perfect. People make such a big deal about nothing. Why do I say that? Well, you know, enjoy the nuances. Enjoy those moments that you can go, you know what? They got me. They sure got me. And, you know, that in itself is is something that people I don't think understand. Is uh enjoy the nuance. Enjoy the show. Go show your support. I mean, Collision and Dynamite had, I think, both nights like 6,000 people show up, which is incredible. You know, I hate seeing that the hard camera side is empty. I hate it. I was at a Cedar Park show here. I live in Texas. I was at a Cedar Park show, and I mean, I was using a VetTix uh, benefit to go to the show, and it's great. It's great in ring action, but people just, they want what they want. You know, Triple H the other day, perfect saying. Everybody's a critic, but nobody wants to watch the show and just kind of go, oh, you know, we need to get back into not feeling so selfish as wrestling fans to declare that we want something and we're going to just stop watching the product. You know, that was the beauty of professional wrestling as you were a younger me, was oh and ah, and they got me. And wrestling fans these days, some don't seem to get that understanding of that's how it should go. Um, I mean, some things on AEW television hasn't made sense. Why were the Bucks involved with the Death Riders and Swerve? Made no sense. People were crying about Tony Storm beating Megan Bayne. Look how Tony Storm had to beat Megan Bayne, by the skin of her teeth. Which makes Megan Bayne a threat. And she is a bad B blankety blank 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 blank. So getting to that point, you already know that woman is a stud. Okay. Um that woman, you don't need to explain any more about Megan Bayne. Just let Megan Bayne go be Megan Bayne. It was what we were wishing with Camille. Camille is just like Megan Bayne. She stands out. She is Amazonian. She can grapple. She's an athlete. Um, But, that's another thing that Tony Khan, the bad side of AEW is, okay, you've got all these toys, but how do you plug all these toys in? As I was saying in an earlier episode, and Max is kind of helping build their audience. It's getting a broader, better, excuse me, for wrestling or for all elite wrestling in general. You know, Streaming is the future. Can't say it any better than that. Netflix only has 2.5 million global views. Raw is same day replayable now. A lot of people work when Raw is on stateside. A lot of people are going to bed. So is all their audience gonna be on one Monday night? No. Same thing with AEW, NXT, uh, Evolve, SmackDown, PLE's pay-per-views. Triller, Peacock, Fight Pass, you name it. That's how the audience is expanding. Are you going to see it in the Nielsen ratings? Probably not, because I have Hulu Live, Hulu Plus Live TV. Am I going to see my rating or my observation of the product in the ratings from there? Probably not. They probably don't gauge necessarily streaming numbers through the Nielsen rating system. Who knows? But if you give it a chance, and I believe that all professional wrestling, uh, whether your talent is straight, gay, trans, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, it could be Marvin the effing Martian. Give it a chance. Give the talent a chance. You know, and AEW has some of the best wrestlers in the world. Can't deny that. All these companies have some of the best talent in the world. You just gotta give them a goddamn chance. Excuse my language. But AEW is getting better. Oh, hey, the NXT beat them. Cool. NXT beat them by 40,000 viewers, which means that gap is narrowing. But life happens and people are busy on them. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I don't always get to catch TNA because I have responsibilities to the veterans of foreign wars. It just happens that way. So, it's a pissing contest to see who has more. Those companies are still getting eyes, whether it's a Sunday evening at 7 p.m. or it's a Wednesday evening or afternoon at 2 p.m. These companies are still getting the eyes. Enjoy it, love it, embrace it, allow it to frickin' happen. Enjoy professional wrestling, support professional wrestling, whether it's a major company, whether it's an independent, international. Love it. Allow yourself to escape into it. That's what I do. Is I escape into watching what I'm witnessing and allowing it to write for itself through the action. When you don't do that, then it's just another TV show. Allow yourself to escape. Moving on from AEW, we're gonna roll the dice a little bit here. We're gonna go real quick through both night one, night two predictions. A little taste of what I think is going to happen on Saturday, Sunday night, even probably tonight. Honestly, I think who is it? Chelsea Green and at least Street Profits and mostly Machine Guns may still have a match come Sunday. Card is 7 heavy on Saturday and 6 heavy on Sunday. So still see a match 2 or 3 getting put into both nights, which 4 hours, 8 matches. Ain't going to be horrible. But yes, we're going to have a lot of WWE overload with Stand and Deliver, with uh, with WrestleMania 41 Night 1 and 2. Uh, I'm going to go with Jay Cargill and Naomi. Naomi, I don't think it is the lone shooter. Throw out some Kennedy terms here. I don't think she did it alone. But she's showing that she has the guts to go, I did it, and you best watch your back. Jay Cargill is a woman scorned. A lot of what you've been seeing from Jay lately has been throwing nods at Kill Bill, The Bride, Beatrix, those things. So if you're paying attention, you thought you killed me, and now I'm back. I would love to say that Jade's going to win this, but I'm going to pick Naomi. I think Naomi is going through, if not elevating herself through a heel push. And Naomi has shown she is a credible heel in the past. Team Bad with Sasha Banks and Tamina, you know, or Mercedes Moné and Tamina. I'm picking Naomi on this one. Rey Mysterio versus El Grande Americano. Now, that bastard El Grande Americano stealing Chad Gable's glory and robbing him of a match on a WrestleMania card is horrendous. It's terrible, as Charles Barkley would say. It's an offense to all of us who wish Chad Gable could go showcase his abilities. But yet, here we are getting El Grande Americano versus Rey Mysterio. I could see Rey Mysterio losing this match, and him not even blinking an eye, being sad about the fact that he just lost that match, because Rey Mysterio is a legend. He's a Hall of Famer, and I guarantee you, he's more than happy to do the job for El Grande El Grande Americano. Do I think we get a little bit of demasking? Probably. But let's things play out the way they should. LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu. Okay, flat out. If Solo Sikoa doesn't get involved and they let Jacob Fatu go Samoan Werewolf in that match, we've got a brand new United States champion. Don't see it any other way. Really don't. I think LA Knight is probably, once you put Jacob Fatu in the position of being the mid-card workhorse champion for SmackDown, here comes LA Knight into the main event card, as a possible future opponent for a Cody Rhodes or John Cena. We're going to see how that plays, especially post WrestleMania. The War Raiders versus the New Day. Heart wants War Raiders, head says New Day. New Day has milked the crap out of this heel turn, and has only made Big E a more legendary babyface now, while he's been out with the neck injury from the match against Ridge Holland. And sidebar here, quit blaming Ridge Holland for everything. Big E absolved Ridge Holland. They both realized it was a contact sport. Could they have done things better? Sure, yeah. But quit taking your angst out on Ridge Holland. He is a talent trying to do his job, whether it's in NXT or main roster, Evolve, wherever they book him to wrestle. Just let him be. Him and Big E have moved past that issue. But my head says New Day, so I'm going New Day to win the World Tag Team Championships. The Tiffany Stratton Charlotte Flair Women's Championship, WWE Women's Championship match. Um, how this feud has gone has kind of been like, which way did they go, George? Especially with the promos. In Chicago, Charlotte got flustered. First time you've ever seen Charlotte get flustered. And yeah, it happens. It's happened to Bailey. It's happened to Becky. It's gonna happen. It happens to Tiffany Stratton. It's gonna happen to talent. Sometimes these crowds, Chicago, New York, LA, Texas, go to any of the San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, Austin shows. If you're there on a hot night with the crowd being fired up, guarantee you, we'll fluster you in a heartbeat. We'll get you skipping, the bullet points on the promo that was written for you. That being said, Charlotte Flair won the Royal Rumble, the only two-time women's Royal Rumble winner, I believe. That or might be Rhea Ripley first, but anyhow, Charlotte Flair. This is the present versus the future, and the future is holding the championship. Do I think Charlotte Flair will do well to get Tiffany to where she needs to be in that match? Sure. But it's going to be very critical that Tiffany also herself puts the effort in to make that match the best it could possibly be. So I personally believe I will see a brand new women's champion. But if they go the route of Tiffany winning, it can't be booked eerily similar to Rhea and Charlotte at 39. It's got to stand out on its own legs. But if any dance partner of any era were able to be a part of the match, that's who I would pick. Is Charlotte Flair if they're going to let Tiffany go over on Charlotte. From there, and I think this one's actually starting the show, but they're going to give you that heater right there at the beginning of the show. A la AJ Styles and Shane McMahon, Seth and Brock. Multiple names, honestly, that I have started and fired that crowd up. Seth and Drew McIntyre from last year. Give and Maverick. Hopefully, Maverick never watches this episode. But Maverick, who is on One True Mav, I think on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it now. He is all pro Gunther. He wants the title to never leave Gunther, kind of like all the same thing with the tribal chief, the one true tribal chief, Roman Reigns. He wants a long run. Sometimes long runs aren't necessary. A lot of times the company puts the money on, puts the belt also on somebody who's making them money. Jey Uso makes WWE, the Raw brand, a lot of money through merch, appearances. I believe Jey Uso is in the top 10 of characters played on WWE 2K25. And that's not to say Gunther isn't right next along with him, ahead of him, or behind him. But Jey Uso, this is how you make Jey Uso finally stand out from his father's shadow, his brother, his cousin's shadow in Roman Reigns, or The Rock. Jey Uso beats Gunther for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship in the first match tomorrow night. Makes that whole entire crowd happy. Gives us some positive momentum to ride the whole night through. Getting to the main event, CM Punk in his first ever WrestleMania main event. Now, I feel since WrestleMania 29 wasn't the greatest WrestleMania in any way, shape, or form, CM Punk kind of was the main event against The Undertaker, because anytime you fight The Undertaker, it is a main event match. He is his own section of the card. So to see him get his first real closer moment in WrestleMania, am I going to be emotional as a CM Punk fan for him? Yes. I grew up a CM Punk fan from when he was in Ring of Honor and TNA to now, followed him to AEW. I don't hold anything. I don't care. That piece of business was done. They ended on less than favorable terms with each other. Punk went back to WWE, has made amends, and has also shown he can be an asset, which is what he wanted to do. If you've ever watched the documentary, he sat under the learning tree of Paul Heyman when he was at OVW. He was smart enough to sit there and go, okay, now this makes sense. Now that makes sense. Going full circle now that Punk is back into the mix. You know, as it's been said by the CCO and tonight the headliner for the WWE 2025 class of the Hall of Fame, Paul Triple H Levesque, that, Punk, while still has a voice in his creative, is very amenable, because where Punk and Vince McMahon clashed, Triple H can see it from Punk's perspective. Both in-ring competitors. Now, Vince, yeah, he had a few matches, but would you really call the promoter and a full-time wrestler? No. The promoter kind of tends to, stick his neck where it needs to be and kind of keeps his head out of the curtain when he's not required to be there. But, it's been said that he's been a pleasure to work with by the chief operating officer, the CC, that he's been an asset to this TKO era CM Punk, which is great. Seth Rollins doesn't need me to go through his resume. He first ballot Hall of Famer. Roman Reigns, one true tribal chief. First ballot Hall of Famer. I think that Paul Heyman should be inducted with Steve Austin, Rick Rude, Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, and Larry Zbyszko for the Dangerous Alliance. Am I ever going to get my wish? Probably not, but we'll see. We no longer have Rick Rude and Bobby Eaton. At least have Steve and Arn and Larry there, if that were to happen, along with Paul. But this also plays with the favor. And as we've been told for the past 4 months, what is this favor? Well, the favor ended up being, per se, that Paul Heyman was going to walk out with CM Punk at WrestleMania if Punk ever main evented. And, I can respect Paul Heyman honoring his best friend's wish. Has that made Roman Reigns mad? Yeah. He feels betrayed, but in reality, Roman Reigns hasn't been the only Paul Heyman guy. As I just mentioned, Rick Rude, Steve Austin, Larry Zbyszko, Arn Anderson, The Undertaker, Big Show, Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, Cesaro for a time, Ryback for a time, even right now, behind the scenes, Braun Breaker, which if you've read some of Scott Steiner's posts lately, is very thankful that Paul Heyman is helping direct Braun's character and kind of giving him ideas, nuances to plug in so his character stands out more than it has. Um, but yes, Paul Heyman comes into play with this match. As it's been speculated, a lot. I listened to a lot of Busted Open with Bully Ray and Dave LaGreca and Mark Henry, Tommy Dreamer, Tom Pestock, or crap, Bishop Dyer, Nick Nemeth, Thunder Rosa, Mickey James, just to name a few. Denise Salcedo, Ryan McKinnell, Matt Camp, uh, Robin Lundberg today on the 12 to 3 o'clock episode of uh, this long week for Busted Open and SiriusXM out there in Las Vegas. As Bully said, and I'm tending to believe what Bully is kind of writing out there into the universe. I think we see Seth Rollins leave Paul Heyman, and Seth Rollins becomes yet another part of the lineage of Paul Heyman guys. Does Seth need Paul Heyman? Probably not. But you turn on the Tribal Chief becomes a bigger babyface. More scorned babyface. Scorched earth babyface. Punk, how are you siding with the guy that thinks I'm a cancer? Branches. Wrestling, if you've ever watched Loki and you saw the god of stories, what they turned Loki into at the end of season 2, it's kind of playing like that. These are branches on an ever-growing tree, and that tree grows larger, and it gives you another year's worth of storylines, the kind of where their paths will cross, and vengeance will be come for, and yada 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 yada. Anyhow, so that'll end night 1. Night 2, I think, like I said, the Street Profits, Machine Guns, and Chelsea Green versus X, Y, and Z gets added to night 2. I'm going to leave those off because I don't know how they're going to do SmackDown tonight or how SmackDown plays out tonight. So we'll see. Starting off with the Women's World Championship, which I believe is the night 2 starter. Io Sky, Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley. Honestly, the way they've been booking this, they're already telling you who's going to win right off the bat. Io Sky. I'm going Io Sky with this one. It allows Io Sky to roll out to yet another opponent, and it allows Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair to grow this feud that they're going to go through. And to whatever extent, whatever branches grow from that tree, we're gonna see that this isn't over for Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. But I think Io Sky retains. Moving on, you've got AJ Styles versus Logan Paul. And how does Karrion Kross fit into this? Karrion Kross last night won a very tough fight against Jared Kratos during Bloodsport. So, before I get to the Scuttlebutt sessions, we'll talk a little bit about Bloodsport. How does Karrion Kross fit into this? Do we turn AJ heel? Does he involve himself with Logan Paul? As we saw Monday against AJ Styles, Karrion Kross can go. He can talk. He can wrestle. Why isn't he more on our televisions in the ring and kind of just standing out? Yes, the Final Testament would have been great if they put a booking focus on them. You know what? Life happens. Things move on. Here we are. Karrion Kross and Scarlett are getting the chance to do their thing on the main roster. like they did so well in NXT. But going back to AJ Styles, Logan Paul, you might have the show stealer the whole entire weekend for WrestleMania. I don't think anything beats John Gresham and Zack Sabre Jr. From the other night. Or, I mean, Bloodsport was a loaded great, actually, show last night. But it's going to be interesting to see where Karrion Kross fits into this spot. Ultimately, do I think Logan Paul goes over on AJ Styles? No, but hey, you know what? AJ Styles, he has done so much. He has accomplished so much. So even if he takes the L, there's a storyline that will come from WrestleMania. So I'm going AJ Styles, but I wouldn't be shocked if Logan Paul gets the win. Liv and Raquel the Judgment Day versus Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. Now, two parts of how this is going to branch off. I see the Judgment Day, the women from the Judgment Day, Liv and Raquel, retaining their WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. I see Bayley turning on Lyra Valkyria to go for a run against her for that Intercontinental Championship. But I also see a way in for the women of the Wyatt Six, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, being able to play themselves in against the Judgment Day. As it's been good about their booking lately, the Judgment Day, or not the Judgment Day, the Wyatt Six, kind of, and I wouldn't say praise. Praise is not exactly the greatest word, but kind of tries to shatter groups or individuals when they're chasing them. I mean, granted, we haven't seen this Wyatt Six in a while. I believe they're Taylor Rotunda, Bo Dallas has had injuries, Uncle Howdy. But I would not be shocked if in the not too distant future, come Sunday, we see the Wyatt Six make their return to their female colleagues, Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross. The Intercontinental Championship four-way. Braun Breaker, Penta, Finn Balor, Dominic Mysterio. I would love to say that Braun Breaker retains, but this is where I think you take the moment to frock Dom Mysterio. Kid's been doing outstanding work on TV. It only makes sense to allow him a run with the Intercontinental Championship. Kid's been a workhorse on TV. Love him, hate him, boo him out of the building. He's been that damn good to watch, to love to hate to love. The branches on the tree. I told somebody the other day with WrestleMania. A lot of this is WrestleMania used to be, oh hey, this is the crescendo. What I like about Triple H and of course the final boss, The Rock's backing of what Triple H does, Nick Khan, Ari Emanuel, Mark Shapiro backing what Triple H does, is because post WrestleMania, you're supposed to have feuds that build from WrestleMania, so that they might be redressed a year later at WrestleMania 42 in Minneapolis, or Indy, or wherever they're going to do WrestleMania next year. Point being, flat out, Dom Mysterio deserves a run as a workhorse champion, and I believe that's how the finish is going to be. I believe you see Dominic pin Finn Balor, and you start to see that further cracking of the foundation, along with the impact Wyatt Six will have to the Judgment Day. The Sensei Street Fight, Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest. I'd love to say the term "there will be blood" is going to rear itself around this match. I expect a pretty hard-fought match. It's toss up as to who should win this match because both guys are over. It really isn't going to hurt them one way or another, whether one wins or it doesn't. Um, the streets are saying Drew McIntyre probably going to take this one. Uh, but don't be shocked if they put Damian Priest over Drew McIntyre while Drew McIntyre gets his pound of flesh. Now we get to the main event, the whole entire weekend. Cody Rhodes versus John Cena. It's been a good run for Cody, but it's a better run when he's the babyface chasing the title. And I think the coronation for Cody comes in December, or true coronation of being the outstanding face of this company overall comes in December when Cena bids himself one more doff of the cap to the crowd during his curtain call. I'm going to say winner and new and breaking Flair's unofficial record per Ric Flair. John Cena is going to win his 17th championship, but I expect some chicanery. Is The Rock going to be involved? Is Travis Scott going to be involved? Are we going to get a Drew McIntyre, as you've been seeing with the Under Armour Project Rock commercials? Are we going to get Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman? Seth and Cody have been good friends over the last couple of years. Does that change on Sunday? So we're going to see. You go from 1 year before where, it was big hullabaloo about Cody finishing the story to now, okay, the story recontinues. The story now has another chapter. The story now is, how does Cody Rhodes overcome John Cena? And what are going to be his stumbling blocks in the months to come in between that and that next match against John Cena? So give it that. People, like I said, have been saying this is underwhelming. Let it breathe tomorrow. Let it breathe Sunday and be astounded. Yeah, WrestleMania 31 was underwhelming. WrestleMania 31 is also considered one of the best WrestleManias of all time. So, just I would give it a break to being such a critic and just kind of enjoy the moment. Finally, and this is going to end the night or end the show today. It's a segment I close the show with called the Scuttlebutt Sessions. Now, why do I call it the Scuttlebutt? Because this tends to be rumor or, hot topics that, the wrestling world, us fans, like to live on and make a big deal of. But one mainly lately that I've been seeing on X, on Facebook, about people. Yes, those of us who live in America, we have what they call the First Amendment. As a veteran, I swore to uphold defend the freedoms of all Americans against foreign and domestic. We're not going to get into that, and I'm not going to further expound on that. That's a whole different story. But, when we're talking about political leaders, does that necessarily mean the guy supports them? As I was listening to the Andrew Schultz podcast with Triple H. Triple H was simply speaking on whether you like the guy or hate the guy. He knows how to draw you in and get attention. He wasn't saying he liked Donald Trump. He was just kind of going, okay, you can admire a guy, even if he's a bit of a scumbag. Being able to kind of go to elicit the emotion that he wants to see out of you. That he wants to try to inspire our political leaders in Washington D.C. and over all the place to kind of give themselves a hard look. Hey, we're giving in too much to this. We need to do this. And going back to the another point of my veterans thing, and this is going to be the last thing I talk about it on, is with Roman Reigns. He sat there and said Donald Trump is our president. Well, 77 million people voted for Donald Trump. 75 million voted for Kamala Harris. Whether it had been the numbers reversed, Kamala Harris is the president of the United States, I'm going to respect her as the president of the United States. I may not respect her as a person outside of the role, but she was the duly elected top dog. That would be great. Same thing with Donald Trump. Same thing with Barack Obama. Same thing with George W. Bush. Same thing with Bill or William Jefferson Clinton. Okay, it really, and even Joe Biden. I apologize for forgetting Joe Biden. It seems he does a lot of forgetting these days. Pardon me, Mr. President. The timing was perfect. Um, but Roman Reigns sitting there saying, "Hey, I'm a centrist Democrat, but I can see why Trump got elected." We don't always have to agree on everything, but we are starting as a society to forget what civility and polite civil discourse is. I don't care if a person is trans. As long as they live their life, I'm going to treat them as any other human being. If they're black, they're Hispanic, they're Asian, I'm going to treat them as any other human being with respect. I grew up being told to respect my elders and my peers. And I will continue that till the day I die. But the thing about it is, the world gets too conflicted on listening and harping on into an opinion that they can easily ignore, and they can go live real life, and they can, for themselves, uh, not be spun up by politicians. If anything, us as a society, us as Americans, should be telling our representatives and our senators, instead of talking about getting shit done, excuse my language, go and do it. Fix immigration, fix the economy, fix this, fix that, fix everything else. Where does that fit in professional wrestling? Well, it doesn't really, but it's starting to look like professional wrestling at the political level, believe it or not. A lot of times you're trying to figure out who the babyface and the heel is there on Capitol Hill. And who's trying to sell you a bag of good deeds and selling you uh, a bag of stone cold reality. Uh, but, we can support professional wrestling as a whole. We can understand, okay, there's something. I guess apparently as my screen decided to go white for a second there. Like I said, put your headphones on and ignore it sometimes. Live your life. A wise NCO in the Air Force once taught me, Chris, when you concern yourself with yourself, then you have no further concerns. In other words, he was telling me to mind my business. We need to mind our business more often. Yes, do we need to fight for the rights to exist? Sure. But, that is for a discussion, not necessarily for this platform. But if you cross a person who is a protected class, a different skin color, believes different than you, respect it. You know, I don't necessarily have to agree with a Republican or a Democrat, but if it makes good sense, okay, hey, investigate it. Trust but verify. You know, be that kind of society again. Okay, I believe you, but I'm going to make sure the math adds up. Okay. Also, before I end this, because we're at about an hour now and I didn't want to go too long today, Bloodsport. Oh, there's a beautiful card. Beautiful card. And when I say a beautiful card, let me see if I can bring up the Bloodsport 13 card real quick. You know, I got to sit there and watch it last night. It was amazing. And some of these guys and gals that have been on this show are disciples of Josh Barnett. Layla Hirsch versus Jordan Blade. Now, a lot of people thought that Layla Hirsch was, for her small size and stature, might get overwhelmed by Jordan Blade. At first, she was, but she kind of showed the reason why she's called legit Layla Hirsch. Um, beat Jordan Blade by technical knockout in 3 minutes. Damn good called match by Jimmy Smith and Filthy Tom Waller. Uh, Filthy Tom Waller was just full of zingers last night, which was it made the show funny as hell too. Um, Micah versus Carmen Petrovic or Petrovich via rear naked choke, I believe was the finish. There, crossface. Those ladies threw down. Um, I didn't pick a winner on that match because they both appeared evenly matched, and they stood out the whole entire show as probably one of the more action packed besides Natty and uh, Miyu Amashita or Amasuka or what. Let me get back to the card. We'll figure the name out here. Um, but Charlie Dempsey versus Sheena Aoki. Best grappling match up until I would say later in the card with Zack Sabre and Jonathan Gresham. Sheena Aoki is a legend uh, in the fight game, catch wrestling, uh, professional wrestling. Dude can go. But Dempsey stood out. Uh, it that suplex that finally, or that bundle suplex that Dempsey threw on Aoki to knock him out was was something else. Following that was Karrion Kross beating J.R. Kratos from the NWA. Um, Kratos is a beast. How he hasn't had a cup of tea in the WWE, if he has, I've never seen it, but man deserves his spot in the WWE if he gets a chance. Karrion Kross, slow start, beautiful finish. Cross jacket submission through naked choke to beat Kratos. Uh, Outstanding match. Pete Dunne versus Timothy Thatcher. That was a catch wrestling classic. If you know anything about Speed, the WWE Speed, which is on X every Wednesday, along with Tubi having Evolve, um, Pete Dunne is one of the producers, if not the head producer for Speed. I see why now. He and Timothy Thatcher had a decently long but very impactful catch wrestling match. Uh, Pete Dunne goes over on Timothy Thatcher uh, via joint manipulation armbar. Natty Neidhart making her debut in Bloodsport. Now this is why I like is that Natty being able to branch out into other articles of professional wrestling or other companies like NWA, Bloodsport, allowing her to remain in the forefront in regards to the business at hand. Um, her and Miyu Amashita or Amashita, uh, that was a throwdown. Natty stood her ground. Miyu was as violent as was expected. At the end of the day, Natty stands tall with the sharpshooter, which, you know, if you do the sharpshooter right, it's an effective submission. A little wrestling hokey, but Natty showed she's got a little bit more personality than just the fun-loving ambassador for much of the women's division in WWE. It was after the fight that was very interesting. The double birds, the brawling. I believe there was a picture of the two making up in the back, but Kenzie Page, the NWA Women's World Champion, being in the crowd and throwing her 2 cents in literally, and then getting a scrap broken up going into the next match. Tavion Heights was fighting for NQCC bragging rights or honors, honor for his group against Royce Isaacs. Royce Isaacs, Triple H gets a second to sign this guy. He should be the 5th member of the NQCC. Dude's a stud. And he's fought in a few blood sports. So, man, is worth the time and the money and the effort to put in and watch on a screen. Especially with the way that New Japan is kind of starting to fall apart. But Tavion Heights knocking out Royce Isaacs. I mean, the headbutts, Greco-Roman guy versus a freestyle guy. And Royce Isaacs is multidisciplined in other martial arts, I believe, which only made the match stand out greater. Konami versus Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler is a it's gonna kill me. I can't remember his first name. But Josh Barnett and Billy Robinson, disciple in regards to catch wrestling and submission. Konami went in there and she was hot to trot and tough to beat, but Shayna Baszler does what she always does. She allows you to wear yourself out and then beats you up. So either snap, tap, or nap. And what I think was the best fight of the night, flat out best fight of the night, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Jonathan Gresham. Why Jonathan Gresham isn't signed to WWE, I will never know. Looks like Pez Whatley, and that's no shoot against Pez Whatley because Pez Whatley actually was a very talented wrestler outside of professional wrestling. It's like Pez Whatley with a bad attitude and a submission pedigree, or a doctorate in submission, versus one of the best wrestlers in the world. Can't take that away from Zack Sabre Jr. Dude can fight you on any level. As a powerhouse striker, high flyer, as a technical guy, that he is a chameleon. The punk kick, the suplex into the punk kick, or the slap into the punk kick for the finish. very unseen, but and had Jonathan Gresham wobbly after the fact, but it was the only match of the night that went into overtime. That says something about those men. Those are two tough sons of and if Kid Bandit watches this today, I hope she takes advantage of Zack Sabre Jr. probably being sore as hell and gets the dub tonight. So my best to her. But yeah, best match of the night. Then we went from that to Gabe Kidd versus Josh Barnett. Gabe Kidd talks a good game, but you know, and he took part in a good game in his most recent AEW showing. But how is he going to fare against the Godfather, the founder of Bloodsport itself, Josh Barnett? Gabe Kidd and Josh Barnett scrapped, and they went at it. And Gabe Kidd now can sit there and say that I beat a man who has beaten this guy, this guy, this guy, Randy Couture, and can live to talk about it. That I had that feather on my Kevlar, my War Dog Kevlar helmet. Gabe Kidd, you have my respect, and you have yourself a new fan. Beyond that, I think that's about it in regards to talking about things today. Just remember to like, share, and subscribe. You can find me on X and Facebook under the From the Cheap Seats Wrestling Podcast name. Like, share. It allows me to be able to broadcast this on Facebook if I get like 100 followers, apparently. On X, you really don't have to do it as long as I have a blue check mark. Subscribe on YouTube. It's got the same name. The link is actually in the bio on the X if you really need a fast track to it. With this being said, this being done, this has been From the Cheap Seats with Chris Branson. I'm Chris Branson. I appreciate the hell out of you for watching this, if and when you do. Okay. I know the crawler down there has been a little backwards, going the wrong way. Anyhow, like, share, subscribe, let your friends know about it. Show some love. I'm always open to partners, collabs, adding a team member to this podcast. It ain't just be about me long term, but anybody who would like to advertise, let me know. I'll put you over. Other than that, this has been, like I said, From the Cheap Seats Podcast with Chris Branson. I bid you a good day and enjoy WrestleMania weekend.